Hi everyone, welcome to Model 4 of our 8 model series of comprehensive implementation of ISO 9001. This is part 4 of 8, and we hope that you watch the previous models from 1 to 3 because each model is built on the previous one, and that will give you an understanding of the total course. Now, let's just move on with this model, and hopefully you can watch the previous one later on. So, building on the risk-based planning foundation from the Model 3, this model provides essential support infrastructure needed to execute our quality management system effectively. So here we will learn in Model 4 how to manage the resources and how to build the competence, and also we will learn how to enable effective communication and control documents without bureaucracy, but based on the collaboration. This model 4 of 8, again, is a journey of our ISO 9001 implementation. We are starting from zero to certification. And what we have done in our course model here is dissecting case study company pieces and then building it. Instead of explaining clauses, we are explaining in real life and working with you through this organization, and you will be able to vividly see what we are establishing along the way. Now, our case study organization is called Global Meat House. The organization type is meat processing, meat slaughtering to meat processing to packing and to export. Our organization scale has 200 to 500 employees across 2 sites, and the operations span into 2 sites. Site A is livestock reception, and then the slaughtering process, and then the primary carcass handling, and then to initial chilling. Then site B, they handle the operations of secondary processing, the operations of cutting, deboning, portioning, packing, labeling, cold storage, and distribution. The market reach of our case study, there we have retail in the local market and wholesalers that is covered and we distribute to, and also we distribute to food services operators, including butchers, hotels, and restaurants. And also we reach international market export customers, for example, to EU markets or European unions, Middle Eastern markets, Asian markets, and US markets. The key support challenges that we have identified in Model 3 and that we are going to solve in this Model 4. Number one, we have equipment maintenance, and we'll cover critical cold chain equipment failure that have caused temperature excursion. And also, we have identified key support challenge there, which is skill variation or variability. And we have identified inconsistent cutting and processing skills across all shifts in both sides. And we have identified a challenge of communication gap that include interface failure between side A and side B, which are 15 kilometers apart, and there is a gap in communication there in scheduling and delivering. Also, we have discovered one of the challenges is document control, and that include export documentation have error and it caused rejection in the border by 7% of shipments throughout last year. Finally, the fifth challenge that we have discovered from the previous model is measurement accuracy. and that include the challenge of calibrational lapses that affecting specifications and compliance. So the goals of our Model 4 here is to transform identified risk into robust support systems that enable consistent quality delivery across side A and side B. So this model will provide the practical tools and system we need to support the risk control and quality objectives that we have set in Model 3. Let's recap now what we have built so far from Model 1 to Model 2 to Model 3, and now we are in Model 4. In Model 1, which was understanding the organization, it covered organization context analysis, and that include internal and external issues have been analyzed. Interested parties have been identified that include customers, regulators, suppliers, and our employees. And also the process approach have been mapped, and we start from livestock receiving to slaughtering to processing and to distribution. And then we have covered also in Model 1 the scope definition, and we have defined the scope covering side A and side B operations with our 200 to 500 employees. Also, we have covered current performance baseline, the cost of poor quality, which is at 384,000 USD. In Model 2, which is leadership and quality culture, we have covered leadership accountability metrics, and we have created that. And then we have established quality policy, which covered animal welfare, cold chain traceability, and export compliance. And in Model 2 also we have covered quality objective, and we have set six key metrics and that are targeting real performance gaps. Also, we have covered interface controls procedures for our 15-kilometer transport between two sites. And in Model 2 also we have covered leadership routines, and we have established daily routine, weekly routine, monthly routine, and quarterly routine. In Model 3, which is planning the quality management system, we have uh, established risk-based thinking framework, and also risk register have been created for all critical interfaces, and quality objectives have been linked to all identified risks, and also the change management procedures have been defined. And finally, risk control have been designed for prevention. Today in our Model 4, we are building infrastructure to execute these plans through resources, provision, competency building, communications enhancement, and documentation system. Again, as we stressed last time, the planning is complete by now, and we will build the infrastructure. The purpose of our model. Model 4, where we are today, is the bridge between planning and execution. And we are going to ensure that organizations have the necessary resources and support to establish, implement, maintain, and continually improve the quality management system, because we know without proper support system, even if we build the best plans, they will fail in practice. So the purpose, which is to provide resources that will include ensuring adequate infrastructure, equipment, and people. And also, the second purpose is to build competence by developing a skill that we need for consistent quality deliverance, and also enhancing communication by connecting sites and departments effectively to eliminate any gaps that have caused us incidents throughout the years. the model progression. So from risk-based planning of Model 3 to support infrastructure in Model 4. So in Model 3 planning, we have established risk-based thinking, we have created risk register, and we have defined quality objectives as well as the change management procedures have been established. Model 4, where we are today, we are going to cover resources and infrastructure. We are going to cover competence and training, and also communication system and document control. And in the next model, which is Model 5, operations, we will cover procedures control, operational planning, supplier management, and product realization. So Model 3 has identified the what is needed to be controlled. And here in Model 4, we are going to provide the how the infrastructure and system needed to execute plan. So what this model is going to cover, the core support system, we are going to cover resources planning and allocation, infrastructure maintenance for cold chain integrity, calibration program for measurement accuracy, competence requirements for critical roles, training effectiveness evaluation, cross-site communication system, and document control without bureaucracy. With our real-world implementation, this model, we are going to address actual support challenge from two sides, side A and side B meet operations. And that support is going to include equipment maintenance schedule, skills standardization across shifts to ensure consistency deliverance of quality. And also, we are going to support the communication protocol for 15-kilometer separations to eliminate any gaps there. And we are going to export and export document control to avoid any error since we have 7% error of and rejection on the border. So we will build practical support system that directly will enable the risk control that we define in Model 3. Support enable execution, and without proper support, plans are just mere papers. So identifying and providing the right resources is crucial for the effective functioning of quality management system. ISO 9001 quality management system lays it down in specific requirements to ensure that our quality management system is well equipped to meet its intended outcome, which is consistent quality and customer requirements are met and regulatory requirement are met. So for our case study, the global meat house, this will mean that we have to ensure that every risk control have been identified in Model 3, has the necessary infrastructure and has the necessary people and the system to function effectively. And again, system always fail when support is weak, and support is crucial here. What support is and what support is not in the context of quality management system ISO 9001. Support is enabling consistent execution and providing all the resources needed for that. Support is provide adequate resources, and support is building real competence, skilled people, and support is facilitating effective communication to eliminate any gaps. Support, however, is not building bureaucracy. Support is not creating paperwork just to look pretty. Support is not adding unnecessary costs just to be relevant. And support is not replacing common sense with the complex system. The four pillars of ISO 9001 support. Number one, the first pillar is resources and infrastructure. And under this pillar, it covers people, equipment, facilities, and environment needed for operations. The second pillar is competence and training, which cover skills, knowledge, and awareness for quality delivery. The third pillar of support of ISO 9001 is communication, and that covers internal and external information flow for coordination. The final pillar is documented information that include procedures, records, and knowledge management. Now let's look at the first pillar of support, which is resources and infrastructure. So building on the foundation for consistent quality. That's always the backbone foundation. So organizations must determine, according to the ISO 9001, and provide the resources needed to establish, implement, maintain, and continually improve the quality management system. For our case study, Global Meat House, this means ensuring adequate people are available, proper facility is available, proper environment is available, and working environment across both sides is prepared for safety of people and safety of customers and consistent quality. Key principles here in the first pillar that resources infrastructure, it's not just about having enough resources, but also about ensuring they are suitable for our specific quality management system requirement. The adequacy of resources directly will impact the efficiency and resilience of our quality management system. Resources planning for multi-sites or for two-sites operations. Now we are sticking to our case study, but always, as I remind you, you can replicate this system into your organization and tailor it to it. But the principle is the same of ISO 9001. Now let's see the planning of resources. People resources, as we mapped out, the required is from 200 to 500 employees across all shifts, all sites, and all functions. So it has to be planned and provided adequately. Then the infrastructure, the resources needed, slaughtering facilities have to be updated, process equipment have to be complete, cold storage intact, transportation vehicles must be available. Then the resources planning, we have process environment, have to cover proper temperature control, proper hygiene standards, and proper safety conditions. The resources must be provided to ensure those three elements are met. Then in resources planning, we have the monitoring equipment have to be provided, including scales, thermometers, pH meters, and testing equipment. In resources planning, we do have organization knowledge have to be provided, retained, including the procedures, expertise, lesson learned, and practices. Critical infrastructure for cold chain operations for our case study. Let's look now at infrastructure. What are the critical functions for the infrastructure? What are the failure risks? And what are the maintenance requirements? First, we have the chiller system infrastructure. The critical risk function for chiller system is to maintain carcass temperature between 0 to 4 Celsius. Failure risk there is product spoilage and bacteria growth, and maintenance requirement to eliminate such risk is daily monitoring and monthly services for the chilling system. The second infrastructure, which is processing equipment. The critical function for processing equipment is consistent cutting and portioning. Risk failure involved here is specifications non-compliance, and the maintenance requirement for processing equipment is weekly calibration and daily cleaning. The third infrastructure we have transport vehicle. This transport vehicles has a critical risk functioning in terms of 15-kilometer cold chain maintenance. The failure risk here is temperature excursions, and the maintenance requirement for transport vehicle is pre-trip inspection, continuous monitoring, and we have the fourth infrastructure that is critical for for cold chain operations is weighing system. Weighing system. The critical function for weighing system is accurate portion control, and failure risk here is customer compliance and giveaway costs in terms of inconsistent portioning. Maintenance requirements here, it's monthly calibration, verification. Maintenance planning that prevent problems. Let's look at the maintenance because maintenance is not just a repair, maintenance is a prevention of failure before it affects quality, and we have three types of maintenance. First, the most important is the predictive maintenance, and it means that we have to monitor equipment performance to predict failure. And for example of that is temperature trend monitoring on chiller. The second is preventative maintenance, second important, and it means that we have to schedule service based on time or usage. An example for that is monthly compressor service or daily filter checks. Third type of maintenance is corrective maintenance, which means to fix the problems when they occur. An example for that is emergency repair when equipment fail. The goal here to plan a proper maintenance is to have 90% of maintenance is predictive maintenance, 8% is preventive maintenance, and 2% is for corrective maintenance, and that's for critical equipment. Monitoring and measuring equipment. To ensure measurement accuracy, organizations must identify, measuring, and monitoring resources and apply control to ensure that these resources are fit for use. Maintenance and calibration methods should be put in place for monitoring and measurement activities. Now, first, how do you monitor and measure the equipment? One, you have to identify critical measurements such as temperature, weight, pH, moisture content that affecting the quality. After identifying such critical measurements, you have to define accuracy requirements such as tolerance levels based on customer specifications. Once you have identified accuracy requirements, you have to establish calibration schedule such as frequency based on usage, drift, and criticality. And once you establish calibration schedule, you have to maintain calibration records such as evidence of measurement system reliability. Work environment for food operations. Organizations in food operations must determine, provide, and maintain the environmental necessary for operations of processes and achieve conformity of products and services. And those environments that will determine the safety and necessary conformity must include physical, social, psychological, and environmental, and other factors such as proper temperature, humidity, ergonomics, and cleanliness environment. First, if we talk about physical environment, we mean by proper physical environment, temperature control, proper lighting, proper ventilation, and proper noise control for workers' comfort and product safety. As well, when we come about social environment, we mean we have to create teamwork culture based on respect, based on non-discrimination, and the policies that promote quality culture and operational excellence. Psychological environment, that means we have to provide stress management, provide work-life balance, provide job, provide job security that will enable the focus on quality and not job insecurity. Hygienic environment, it means the cleanliness standards must be maintained, personal hygiene must be maintained, sanitizations that prevent contamination must be maintained. The second pillar of support is people, competence, and training. Building skills for consistent quality. Ensuring that personals are competence is a cornerstone of ISO 9001, whether it's through addressing human resources requirement, ensuring appropriate infrastructure, or managing the work environment. Aligning resources with organization needs is crucial. These resources encompass human resources, including their competence and the training required to achieve the necessary skill sets. Competence, in essence, it means proper knowledge, proper skill, and proper experience. Defining competence for critical roles. Now, in our case study, we are mapping out critical roles and defining the required competence. For example, the role of slaughter operations. It requires a minimum of high school education. It requires animal handling, stunning, bleeding, techniques, training, and also it requires experience of 6 months with supervision. And in order to assess that this education, training, and experience are adequate, we must carry out practical demonstrations, test. The second role is butcher or the cutter. Education requirements such as trade certificate as a preference. In terms of training, we need knife skills, cut specifications, and yield optimizations. The experience requirement with such role is 2 years cutting experience. And in order to assess the competency, we must provide cut accuracy test and observe. The third role, which is quality inspector, education requirements include food science or related field, but training will include HACCP, inspection procedure, and documentation. The required experience for such role is 1 year quality assurance or quality control experience. And in order to assess the adequacy for role of quality inspector, we will conduct written plus practical exam. Fifth role is called storage operator. Education requirement for such role is high school. The training that is required for such role include first in, first out or FIFO, temperature monitoring, inventory control. Experience required for such roles, around 3 months warehouse work. And in order to assess this accuracy, we shall conduct process demonstration test. Training versus awareness. We have to differentiate what is training and what is awareness. First, let's start with training, which is building skills. The purpose of training is to develop a specific skill to perform tasks accurately. Example for training include knife handling for our case study, knife handling techniques for butchers, temperature monitoring procedures, equipment operations and maintenance, HACCP principles applications. The assessment include practical demonstration and competence testing. Frequency is we have to conduct site tests initially at the onboarding plus refresher when we need it. Awareness, which is understanding. The purpose of awareness is to ensure understanding of policies, objectives, and consequences. Example of awareness include awareness of quality policy communication, customer requirements awareness, personal responsibility for quality, and consequences of poor quality as well. And everyone need to be aware. The assessment of awareness for all employees is understanding verification. We have to verify throughout the roles and throughout the procedures and also collect the feedback. The frequency of doing so is regular reinforcement and updates. Training effectiveness beyond attendance. Sometimes we don't know whether we are conducting training or if we are wasting time. So, this is how you define whether you are conducting effective training. For our case study, this is what we do effectively. First, we plan the training. We have identified skill gaps. We have defined the learning objectives. And accordingly, we have designed the training program specific for the roles. And then, when we deliver the training, we conduct the training using appropriate methods for different roles requiring different methods. Some requires hand-on, the others requires training in the classroom, and the others require e-learning, and we apply it accordingly. Once we deliver the training, we conducted the assessment, and the assessment will include test knowledge and skill to verify learning has occurred and demonstrated. Fourth, we evaluate the effectiveness through monitoring performance to confirm the training improved results. Real effectiveness measurement, reduced defects is a real effectiveness. That training was effective if they reduce the defect. If the yield is improved, it approves that the training was effective. If fewer customer complaints, that means the training was effective. Now let's see cross-site skill standardization. So with 15 kilometers between side A and side B, ensuring consistent skills and procedures is critical for our quality, uniformity, and consistency. Inside A, the slaughtering operations, we have to standardize the training, stunning consistency training, bleeding procedures standardization, carcass handling techniques, and chilling process optimization. And for both sides, we have to ensure quality inspection standards, temperature monitoring procedures, document requirements, and communication protocol has been established. For side B, the second operations processes, we have to standardize the training to include cutting specifications compliance, packing accuracy, training, label verification procedures, and first in, first out implementations. The third pillar of support is awareness and communication by connecting people with the purpose of their jobs. Clause 7 support emphasizes the significance of awareness among management and staff regarding the policies. Awareness is the pillar, awareness is the background, and awareness is the requirements here. And then also, the, they have to be aware of policies, of objectives, and their role within the quality management system. By raising such awareness related to quality policy and quality objectives between management and staff, we will ensure alignment and the organizations can improve the culture of quality and continuous improvement. Critical for two sites operations, and in your case, it could be multi-site operations. When people work apart, in our case, it's 15 kilometers, communication becomes the lifeline of quality consistency. So we have to make sure the collaborations, the effectiveness of teamwork, and building the culture of collaboration. Employee awareness requirements. Persons doing work under the organization's control must be aware of quality policy, relevant quality objectives as well. Their contribution, they must be aware of their contribution to the effectiveness of quality management system, including the benefits of improving performance and the implication of not conforming with quality management system requirements. So they have to be aware of their job roles relation to the quality, what will happen if they confirm, and what will happen if they don't confirm in terms of quality and in their jobs. First, the quality policy awareness. Each employee and each management have to know the proper answer when they ask themselves such questions in relation to quality policy. What is our commitment to quality? They should be answered. Why does it matter for meat, safety, and customer trust? They must answer, and the answer should be related to quality policy. That's why specificity of the quality and comprehension of the quality policy is crucial. Second, awareness requirements is quality objectives, and all employees must answer the following questions. What are we trying to achieve? How do my action contribute to reducing temperature excursion or labeling errors, and especially for the relevant employees in the subject matter? The third awareness requirement is personal contribution. Employees must confidently answer the following question. How does my work affect quality? What happened when I follow or don't follow the procedures? What happened to the product? What happened to the reputation of the company? And what happened to my job? The fourth awareness requirement is consequence of non-conformance. Employees should confidently answer the following question. What are the risks if procedures are not followed? What are the risks is if customer complaints happen or recall happen? And what are the risks for job security impacts if the procedures are not followed? Internal communication for two sites operations we have streamed as the following for effectiveness. First, the shift handover. It has to include critical information transfer between shifts within each site. When a supervisor from morning shift hand over to the afternoon shift, we have designed in this support model, that's where you design as well, the procedure of handover and the critical elements that need to be hand over. Secondly, side-to-side coordination. We have to design here the SOP to cover production planning, quality issues, transfer schedule across 15 side communication. Third communication here required and must be documented is management communication and has to cover performance updates, policy change, and strategic direction. Third communications that need to be documented is quality alert and have to cover immediate notification of quality issues, corrective actions, and lesson learned. The communication methods for meat operations in our case study: communication type, method, frequency, and responsibility. First, the daily production status. The method of communication is through radio, production boards, or production boards. The frequency of this communication is every 4 hours, and the responsibility is on the shift supervisors. Second communication is quality issues. The method of this communication is quality alert system plus the phone or the phone. The frequency of this communication is immediately in case of quality issue, and the responsible is the quality inspectors. The third communication is the transport coordination between two sites. The method is transport management system has to be deployed, the frequency as per the shipment, and the responsibility is logistics coordinator. Third communication is policy updates. The method through email, notice boards, or through the meeting, or all. The frequency as needed, and the responsibility here is management. External communication management. First, customer communication in the support module here, or in the class of support. It has to cover first, customer communication. Customer communication have to cover order confirmation and updates, quality certification and test results, delivery notifications, compliance handling, and responses. These SOP have to be designed for customer communication. The second, external communication management, would be regulatory communication, and has to be documented how to cover the following: inspection notifications and reports, export certificate applications, incident reporting, and compliance update. The third, communication management, include the supplier's communication, which should cover the following: quality requirements and specifications, performance feedback, audit schedule and results, contract term and change. The third, external communication management, is emergency communication, and it should cover the following: food safety incident, product recall, regulatory notifications, and crisis management. The fourth pillar of support is documented information. Documented information is a collaboration. Organizations must establish and maintain documented information to support the operations of their quality management system. This includes creating and maintaining documents and records in a manner that ensures their integrity, accessibility, and protection. So documents are always guiding the behavior and records are always proving the performance, and we are going to elaborate further shortly. What documents are? What documents are really required for our operations? And as per the ISO 9001, let's elaborate and you can replicate this in your organization. First, ISO required documents include the scope of quality management system have to be defined correctly and have to be documented and communicated. The quality policy have to be comprehensive and has to be justifiable of the exclusion, have to be communicated and accessible to all the interested parties. Then you have quality objectives and you have documented information the organizations deem necessary, and that's flexible as needed. The second part is ISO 9001 mandatory records that include monitoring and measurement results, internal audit results, management review results, nonconformity and corrective actions, and calibration and verifications documents. Records, sorry. Now, in our case study of global meat house, what actually do we need? Number one, we need a sub plan, and that's legally required. And then we need export certification procedures. We need critical process procedures, including slaughtering inside A, all the critical procedures there, and all the critical procedures in the secondary processes inside B. And then we need interface control procedures from side A to side B. And we need emergency response procedure. We need training and competence records. And we need temperature monitoring records. And finally, we need calibration and maintenance records for our case study. The principle here is to always remember that you do not need a documented procedures for every process, but you may need one for more complex processes. Now let's look at the procedure and the work instructions. What are the different? First, procedure, what it is and why it is needed. The procedures is high-level approach, is a process flow and decisions, is a roles and responsibility, and is key control and checks. Example of procedure is temperature control procedure. Now, if we look at work instruction, is step-by-step details and is a specific and sequences, is a technical, has a technical parameters, and has tools and materials needed. Example for work instruction is how to use digital thermometer model XYZ. Document control for two-side operations. This is how you do it. First, creation and approval. You have to be specific who can create documents. For example, when it comes to corporate manual, quality manual that will be created by quality and compliance, group quality and compliance manager. But when it comes to specific job procedures, the owner there will be operational manager of a specific site. Second, who approves them? For consistency, the approval must come from one. And thirdly, what information is required? And that's where the process owner must always involve. Secondly, distribution and access of the documents. How are documents shared between sites? Have to be established method. Where can people find current versions? That's where the document control have to come. Retrieval of the absolute version as well. Third, updates and revision. How are changes managed? How do we define? And how do people know about updates, the communication methods, and the updates, whether it's through toolbox talks or meetings or emails, all have to be defined and documented. And then the retention and disposal. How long are documents kept? When are all versions removed? All these have to be defined. And now let's move to example of our case study to see how we do it. Record retention in food operations. Record type, temperature log. The business need for temperature log record is for quality assurance, and the legal requirements for the retention is 2 years for food safety. The recommended retention as well is 2 years. The second record type will be calibration records. The business need for this record is for measurement confidence. The legal requirement for it is 3 years for the export, and we recommended 3 years for the retention as well. The other record is training record. The business need for training record is for competence evidence, and the legal requirement for retention is during the employment plus 7 years, and we recommend to retain such records during the employment plus 7 years after the employment. The fourth record is customer complaints. The business need for such record is for trend analysis, and the legal requirement for retention is 7 years, and we recommend 7 years for retention as well. The principle here for the retention and this disposition of the documents shall be defined. Organizations need to identify retention time for records as per business, as per the contractual, or as per the legal requirements, and dispose of the documents when the retention period is over have to be done according to such requirements also. Now, let's see the digital retention versus the physical retention. What are the differences? When it comes to digital records advantage, the retention advantage for the digital record include easy sharing between sites, automatic backup and protection, quick search and retrieval, space saving and cost effective, and integration with systems. The challenges we have with digital that we need to address in order to keep the digital retention, it includes the followings. Those challenges: equipment reliability in harsh environment, user training on digital systems, data backup and security, version control and access rights, and disaster recovery planning. When the physical records are better in these circumstances includes wet production environments, emergency situation, simple check sheets, legal requirement for origins, and backup when system fail. So we have to balance organization and knowledge management. How do we manage the organization knowledge and retain it? and benefit from it. Organizations must determine and maintain organizational knowledge, such as backing up electronic documents, records, or system, and documenting essential tribal knowledge. This is all about sharing knowledge and experience within the business. First, organizational knowledge. We have to capture the expertise, and we have to always remember, especially the tribal knowledge, that when the new management members arrive, especially for quality, we have to assess the tribal knowledge and retain it as soon as possible. So let's capture the expertise. That include to document any lesson learned, we have to document it. We have to document best practices and expert knowledge before people retire or leave the organization. The second, the second organization knowledge is organizational information. That include creating accessible database, wikis, or knowledge base that people can search and update. The third, organization knowledge share access sites that will include enabling knowledge transfer between site A and B and between shifts, which means creating collaboration and culture of teamwork. And then to keep the color current of organization knowledge, we need to include regularly update knowledge within new learning, technology change, and process improvement. How Model 4 support Model 3 risk controls. Now let's look at it here. Now, Model 3 risk and Model 4 support system and enabling infrastructure. So first, Model 3, which is temperature excursion during transport. That's a risk we have identified there. The support from Model 4 is equipment maintenance program have been implemented, monitoring system be established or have been established, and then drivers must be trained. That's the support we provide in Model 4. And then the enabling structure is to provide calibrated temperature logs, which have been drafted and paired, and also preventative maintenance schedule have to be prepared and approved, and then the competency requirements. The second risk that we identify in Model 3 is processing skill variation. The way we support in Model 4 here with support clause is by standardizing competence requirements and also implementing training program and implementing proper assessment. The enabling infrastructure for this risk is job competence profile have been mapped, training records to be kept, skill assessment procedures to be drafted and implemented. The other risk is interface communication failure between two sites, 15 kilometers. The support provided here in Model 4 is communication protocols have been established, information system infrastructure have been established, and awareness program also have been established. That's the support handy. The enabling infrastructure here is handover procedures documented, reviewed, and approved through the support here. And then the communication channels have been established and enhanced. And then the awareness training will be carried out as part of this support. Model 3 risk have been identified also have identified export documentation error. the support we provide here in Model 4, the document control system have been designed, the training to be carried out for all the involved parties, and verifications procedures have been designed. The enabling infrastructure here is document templates have been given, approved workflow have been given, and competence verifications have been carried out. The connection between Model 3 and Model 4, every risk control from Model 3 requires support infrastructure from Model 4 to function effectively. So when you are implementing your ISO 9001, when you go to class to Model 3 to identify the risk, or the class of planning to identify the risks, if you reach to the class of support, you have to provide the infrastructure to enable the closure of that gap. Now, Model 4 implementation output. You should have, after completing this model, the following. The first output is resources management plan. You should have complete comprehensive planning for people, for infrastructure, for equipment, and environment needed. So these must include preventative maintenance schedule for critical equipments, capacity planning for both sites, and environmental control for field safety. This is the resources management plan that you should have implemented here in support. Example for that, we have established monthly preventative maintenance schedule for all chiller system with backup procedures when equipment fail also. The second output is calibration and maintenance. You should be able to do this here with the support. You should have documented program to ensure all measurements and monitoring equipments provide accuracy, reliable results, including calibration schedules, acceptance criteria, and corrective actions for out of tolerance equipment. You should be able to do this here before you move to operations next model. And the example for that, we have established monthly uh, calibration verification for all the scales, thermometers, and pH meters with traceable standards. The third output that you should have in the support stage before you move to operations is competence framework that include clear competence requirements for all roles affecting quality with training program and assessment methods linking directly to the risk that you have identified during the planning and in our case during Model 3. Example of our competence framework, we have established butcher competence standards that is requiring 2 years experience plus practical assessment plus monthly yield tracking as we showed you earlier. The fourth output that you should have during the support stage before you move to operations is communication system, and that should include effective internal and external communication channels that ensure quality information flows smoothly between sites, shifts, and departments. And that includes awareness programs and emergency communication schedule. The example of communication system that we have established include real-time quality alert system connecting both sides with escalation procedures for critical issues. The fifth output that you should establish here before we move to operations or next module is document control system, and that should include practical documents and records management that ensure people have access to current procedures and can demonstrate compliance, balance control with usability. Our example of document control include digital document management, system with automatic version control and site-specific access rights. Building your support infrastructure. To implement your support, you have to prioritize the following. First, critical equipment maintenance, prioritize that. And then key competence requirement for quality roles, prioritize that. And then prioritize essential communication channels also to eliminate any variations, any gaps, and any errors. And then prioritize core documents and records to be available. And then prioritize knowledge capturing from experienced staff. Don't forget that. Key success factors that will determine your support is really successful. First, focus on enablers, not on bureaucracy, because every support system should enable better performance, not create administrative burden. And then involve process owners that include people who do the work actually on the floor that should help design the systems that support them. And then we have balance control with practicability. Sorry, I get distracted by some noise in the background there. I hope I will eliminate when I edit. The third success factor will include balance control with practicality, and that should cover system. The systems should be robust enough to prevent problems, but simple enough to be used daily also. The fourth success factor will include design for improvement. Support system should evolve and not also and not improve based on feed. Sorry, support system should evolve and improve based on feedback and challenge as needed. The common pitfalls to you need to avoid when you are implementing the support stage. Uh, Here, what don't work, I have listed them as following. Over documenting simple processes that don't work. Training without competence verification also it doesn't work. One-way communication system never work. Inflexible document control procedures never work. Ignoring organization knowledge never work. And separating support from operations that also never work. Then what actually work are the following. Documenting what add value is what you need. Verifying the training improves performance through monitoring is what you need. Creating feedback loops and dialogues openly and safely is what work. And making documents access simple and fast. It really work. And capturing experience before it walks out the door, especially the tribal knowledge, that really work and you need that. Don't be like some other managers who will come and fire the old people who know a lot. Okay? Always capture the experience. And then integrating support into daily operations, it also works. Your action plan. So now let's go step by step here of how to implement the support system. First, assess the current state. So you should review the existing resources, review the competence, the communication, and documentation system. And after that, you can prioritize the gaps that you have found while you are reviewing there and doing your analysis. Then mainly focus on the support system that will enable the highest priority risk control from your planning model, and in our case, it's model 3. So, for example, we have the highest risk of the communication breakdown and sorry, the temperature deviation during the transportation. That's the high risk we have identified during our gap analysis in model 1 through the 3 models. And now that's our focus of priority to close that gap. So always prioritize the gap that you have identified when you are reviewing first the resources. Then once you prioritize that, design simple system, create practical, usable support system that people will actually understand. For example, we did the insulated vehicles, uh, install the on-time, like the real-time alert for the deviation, and we have set what to do in case of uh, being held in unexpected traffic. So just design a simple system that people will understand and use. Then pilot and refine. Test the system with the small groups, get feedback, and improve before you roll out the full implementation. After that, deploy systematically, roll out support system in phases. And then by doing so, you will ensure proper training and adaptation. Uh, Now let's prepare for Model 5, the operational control. Now Model 4 have provided the support infrastructure. Model 5 will put all this in action through operational control of our processes. What have we accomplished with Model 4 here? Infrastructure and resources have been provided here in Model 4 support, and also competence requirement and training systems have been established through the support, and communication channel and awareness program have been implemented in the support stage here, and then document and control and record control system have been operationalized, and then organization knowledge have been captured and and sharing system. Always collaboration, getting the tribal knowledge. Remember that. What Model 4 will provide for us, Model 4 will provide the infrastructure. Model 4 have provided the infrastructure, and Model 4 will show how we are going to use this structure. So first in Model 4 is going to show us the operational planning and control, and that will cover process control for slaughtering, processing, and packing, the how and the actual operations, also the supplier control and outsource processes, and production planning and scheduling. Second thing, we are going to know how to do it, which is identification and traceability. That will cover product identification through the processes, traceability from farm to customer, and batch control and segregation. And also we will cover the design and development, and we will know how new products development and how to control it, and then the process change and validation, and then the customer requirements. The fourth one will be not conforming product control. That will include detection and contamination and containment, sorry, and disposition and corrections, and then prevention of unintended use. The connections in Model 4 support, it gives us what we need to operate. Model 5 uh, will give us the operations, how we actually operate. So support without control is a wasted investment. Model 5 will turn our infrastructure into controlled, consistent operations. Support is the foundation of excellence. So good support makes good operations possible. So if you provide support, people can execute consistently. And if people can execute consistently, that means customers will receive the quality. And our achievement in Model 4 here include resources and infrastructure management system have been established, competence framework and training program have been implemented, communication channel connecting sites and departments have been established, and document control system enabling, not hindering the operations. Model 4 here, critical infrastructure for our 8 model journey. Model 4 has transformed our skill management plan from Model 3 into practical supported systems, we can now have the infrastructure needed to execute consistent quality operations across both sites. So from planning to execution, infrastructure in place. With the support system developed in this model, our quality management system now has the backbone it needs to operate reliably. We have moved beyond planning to building the actual system that enable consistent quality delivery. What's next? Putting all into action with Model 5. As we move to Model 5, we will see how to use this support infrastructure to control our actual operations. From slaughtering to export, we will ensure that every process deliver consistent quality every time. Model 4 summary, our implementation checklist. Our First, we will start with process and infrastructure. In the support stage, first, when you start with the process and infrastructure, ensure that resources planning has been completed for people, equipment, and facility, and then ensure that maintenance program has been established for critical equipment, and then to ensure that work environment control has been implemented and monitoring and measuring equipment have been calibrated here in support. The second will be competence training. In this stage, before you move to operations, just make sure that competence requirements have been defined for critical roles, training program designed and implemented, training uh, effectiveness evaluation methods have been established, and also make sure that under maintenance and training, that competence record have been maintained. And then the awareness and communication, make sure at this stage the following are covered. Employees awareness program have been implemented, internal communication channel have been established, external communication procedures have been defined, and cross communication protocols are working. Then under documentation and information, ensure the following. Essential documents have been identified and created, document control procedures have been implemented, record retention schedule have been defined, and organizational knowledge management system have been operationalized. That means if you tick all the boxes, that means you are ready for Model 5. The complete journey where we are now, let's look at Model 4 has been complete. The Model 1, Class 4, understanding the context of organization, the foundations have been established there, and that covered context analysis have been complete there, process have been mapped there, scope have been defined, and performance baseline have been identified there. And in our case studies, 384,000 USD cause of poor quality. In Model 2, which is Class 5, leadership, in our case study, leadership and quality culture, accountability has been established, and that we have covered there. Leadership structure have been defined, quality policy have been created there, 6 quality objectives have been set, and interface ownership there have been assigned. In Model 3, which is Class 6 planning, in our case study, risk management have been established in planning the quality management system, and that covered risk-based thinking framework. Risk register have been created there. Control have been designed, and change management procedure have been established there. Now, in Model 4, which is Class 7 support, in our case study, support processes Model 4, the infrastructure have been established so far, and it covers the following: resources and maintenance system, competence and training program, communication channels, and document control system. The models ahead include Model 5, the operations control, which will cover process control, supplier management, traceability, non-conformity control. And then we have Model 6, which is performance and evaluation, and we are going to cover monitoring, measurement, audits, and management review. And then in Model 7, improvement, we are going to cover non-conformity, corrective actions, continual improvement. And then in Model 8, the certification readiness, we are going to cover gap analysis, audit preparation, and certifications. And by now, in this Model 4, that means we have completed 50%, 4 out of 8 models. And you have built the foundation. We have done it together, yay! And and the infrastructure as well. So now we are going to control the operations. The infrastructure is complete. Model 1 to 4 establish understanding, leadership, planning, and support. Model 5 to 8 control operations and prove the effectiveness. Thank you for completing Model 4. You have accomplished today. Yeah, tap to yourself. Uh, Now the achievement, I think we have covered those, but let me just try to reiterate here. The key achievement today, resources and infrastructure management system have been established. Competence framework and training program has been implemented. Communication system connecting sites and departments have been established. Document control system established effectively, and organization knowledge management have been implemented. Thank you so much. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel if you find this helpful. Share it with your friends. You know, subscribe, share it with your friends. I'm your host, Walball, the founder of Quality QHSC360.org. Visit us there. We have free materials to give away. And thank you for building safer, sustainable, and certified organization with us. We appreciate you and see you in the next model. Bye bye.